So in this video, we're going to be talking about the FT and specifically this man here, Henry Mance, who has absolutely savaged Michael Gove over Brexit and some of the other things he said about, Project Fear, and Captain Foresight saying that, well, no one could have seen these things here. We've got Captain Foresight saying, well, we knew these things were going to happen. And this article was one of the most brutal articles I've read, I think, ever. I think purely because specifically from like papers from the FT, they don't really do stuff like this. They're more like more of a numbers game, I guess, and they'll give their opinion based around numbers. But this article here is brutal. So Michael Gove's speeches are refreshing. The UK Cabinet Office Minister quotes Gramsci and W.H. Alden. He doesn't like the terms. He doesn't use terms like zap, slightly bonkers, and squash the sombrero. I think that's a dig at Boris, but I'm not sure. He demands to be taken seriously. Politicians like me, Mr. Gove said in his digitally annual letter last month, must take responsibility for the effects of their actions and consequences of their announcements. It's an interesting idea, and I wonder what it means in practice. Let's imagine a group of politicians, call them Vote Leave, promise we can leave the EU and still have free trade with minimal bureaucracy. Let's imagine that 4 years later, the government built a 27-acre lorry park in Kent for customs checks after the Brexit transition period ends in January. Let's imagine the government estimates that the customs declarations alone will cost companies $7 billion a year, and that's a conservative estimate from the FT. There, I think I've seen the Telegraph have said it's about $13 billion. So that's £135 million a week. That's the FT's number there. And so what you can see from this from what the author of this article is doing is saying that, well, let's hypothetically talk about how airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars. Now, it's my favourite Ben Shapiro meme. Let's pretend that this is happening. So, we've got this group, Vote Leave, who have said, let's leave the EU, it's going to be great, free trade, no bureaucracy, all this stuff. And now they've had to build a 27-acre lorry park to deal with all the lorries coming in because of all the bureaucracy. So this is minimal bureaucracy in the same way that British has a minimal coronavirus death toll. What was it that Gove said? Politicians like me must take responsibility. Yet when asked about Brexit preparations last Sunday, he replied, some of the criticism has come, how can I put it, like there's an element of Captain Hindsight. And so this is just savage. So it's just great. It's just like Gove is trying to pretend like no one could have seen what's happened, and it's great that we finally got someone who's actually pointing this out. I'd love to see this guy interview Gove. It'd be like the guy who did the Axios interview for Trump, where he just hit him with reality, boom, 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 just kept hitting him. And Trump couldn't handle it. Actually, it was Captain Foresight. Nearly every expert predicted that this leaving the single market and the customs union would require regulatory barriers and restrictions on travel. Brexiteers like Michael Gove obfuscated. This week, reality could be avoided no longer. The government advised people travelling to the EU next year to buy insurance, check roaming charges, and see a vet 4 months in advance if they want to take their pet into the EU. It also published a 206-page guide for trading goods. As the UK in a changing Europe think tank puts it, in almost all cases, Brexit will create additional financial or other cost burdens for manufacturing companies, tariffs, customs declarations, certification costs, audits to ensure rules of origin compliance, loss of collaboration opportunities and R&D, which is something we've lost already through political dogma when it comes to coming up with the coronavirus vaccine. Border delays, which is something we're going to be seeing as well. That's border delays for people travelling to the EU and also goods coming in and out of the EU. EU customers switching to other suppliers, visa costs for EU workers, and so on. And obviously, if there are visa costs for EU workers, they're less likely to come here and go to another country in the EU where they wouldn't have to pay for things like a visa. This isn't Brussels red tape, it's our own independent world-beating red tape. I love it so much. The sass in this article is so good because he's using all that Boris narrative where he talks about we'll have a world-beating track and trace system, which we still don't have yet, which we have chosen to tie ourselves in like a middle-aged man with a newfound letter fetish. Just months ago, Mr. Gove and Boris Johnson were promising no checks on goods between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. That's something I've covered previously in another video. Now they admit there will be checks at least one way. Why does the Prime Minister Latin never extend to the words mea culpa? I didn't know that was Latin. Dominic Cummings, strategist for Vote Leave, and now Mr. Johnson's chief advisor, likes to recommend Philip Tetlock's Super Forecasting. I wonder if he's read it. The book describes a taxpayer-funded contest where people are judged on their ability to predict world events. Since the Brexit campaign, the UK has run its own version. Leavers predicted that the laws of economics, geography, and the EU would all change. Trade experts laughed. Leavers also predicted a trade deal with China, Turkish membership of the EU, and no rise in support for Scottish independence. Any news? My God, this you can't doing a Brexit reality check is you won't get as many as good as this in such a short article. It's so good because these are the things that Remainers did say, did say were lies. If we stayed in the EU and now that we're leaving, it's happening. A deal with Leavers also predicted a deal with China. I can't see that happening. Turkish membership of the EU, that's not going to happen. But we are going to have potentially a free trade deal with Turkey, which will include what's the opposite word of restrictions of like a lowering of restrictions on Turkish migrants wanting to come here, and no rise in support of the Scottish independence and for Scottish independence, and we've seen that skyrocket. I think if the SNP were more competent and haven't screwed over school kids, which we're going to see which I've covered for today's video, this on the 6th. You'll see that come out, then the SNP would be doing a lot better. Failures of policy and judgment had put previously existing elites in the dock, Mr. Gove said in his Ditchley speech. Enough of blaming yesterday's politicians. Warwick University researchers have concluded that areas that voted Leave, notably West Midlands, have suffered the biggest economic hit since the Brexit vote. Who should residents hold responsible? I super forecast this. In a year, Leavers still won't have taken responsibility for the damage. If you beat your head against the wall, it is your head that breaks and not the wall, said Gramsci. Brexiteers have spent 4 years beating their heads against the wall and they're still standing right next to the lorry park. And this is such a good article. And I don't know if it's behind a paywall or not, but I would want you to read it. And if you can't, I'll do something slightly scummy where I'm just going to hover down and you can just pause it and you can read this article because it's so good. It is so good. Shouts out to Henry Mance. He's this is the first article I've read from him, but just everything in this, there's facts, detail, sass, everything that I love. And so look, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And Captain Foresight predicted this stuff in 2016. Captain Hindsight, everything, all of this stuff was predicted, but we were told we're Project Fair. Now Project Reality's come.